Welcome back to Rossoneri TV. Gio here. I'm with Adamo Ritaco, of course, to preview this weekend's match. It's Torino-Milan at the Stadio Olimpico in Torino. Of course, match valid for round 18 of the 2014-2015 Serie A. Milan will try to redeem themselves after that very poor showing against Sassuolo at the San Siro earlier this week on Tuesday, of course, where they lost 2-1. Let's not remind ourselves. But this time around, they're definitely going to need to get the result against Torino. Of course, teams are escaping. The gap is enlarging itself. Of course, we see now Lazio and Napoli on 30 points in third place. Milan is currently 5 points behind them. So, of course, they're going to need to pick up the results. And a win against Torino is a must. Now, Adamo, of course, Torino not having the best of seasons this year. Of course, this is largely due to the fact that Alessio Cerci and Gio Immobile have departed Torino this summer, and it pretty much speaks for itself, the results. Not doing too well after having qualified to the Europa League at the end of last season. Nowadays, they find themselves in the lower mid-table standings. So, of course, not doing too well for Torino so far this season. Now, Adamo, my question to you is, will Milan be able to redeem themselves after that poor showing against Sassuolo or not at the Stadio Olimpico on Saturday?
Well, I think it's possible because when you look at Milan and their situation, especially after that Sassuolo result, and you see Inzaghi as a manager, he's a very man-to-man manager. He likes to motivate his players. So I think they'll be very, very hungry to try to redeem themselves, as you said, especially against that result with Sassuolo. That's just such a terrible result, and it's harder, even as fans, but harder for the players to accept because it's shameful how a performance like that can happen to such a low-table team. No offense to Sassuolo, but so I think they will be hungry to try to get the result, and this could be a very good fixture for Milan.
Of course, now for one of the players on Milan, it's going to be a very important fixture. Probably one of the most memorable for him, and I'm speaking about Alessio Cerci. Of course, the guy played a great success in Torino in these past seasons, scored lots of goals, got a lot of assists. He might not be able to start, though, this match, of course. He's most likely going to start from the bench because he still doesn't have those 90 minutes in his legs, as we all know. Some people I saw on Twitter, Facebook, they don't understand how Cerci is not supposed to be starting in this starting lineup or whatever. Guys, it's more than simple to understand. I mean, the guy is not ready yet, of course. We saw him last game, 20-30 minutes. That's pretty much what he has so far in his legs. It's going to take some time to get back in training, of course, to see him once again starting games and play them in a large role. So, Adamo, what do you think it means for Cerci this match, even starting from the bench?
Well, it's going to be a huge match for him because he even stated in some quotes that I saw going around, like he even has Torino, I believe, a tattoo of something to do with Torino somewhere on his body. But he keeps saying that Torino will always be in his hearts. It's a club that he did very, very well at, and the fans loved him there. So when he scores, he probably won't be celebrating, even though he will be happy that he scored for Milan. But yeah, this is a huge match for him because he's returning to the club that he once played at, and he was so successful, and they pretty much gave him the ability to do this because of how successful he was at the club. So he does have a lot of respect for the club, and this will be a big, big match for him, and will probably be a little bit emotional too.
Well said, well said. Now, guys, let's take a look at the possible starting lineup for Milan. Of course, Inzaghi going with a 4-3-3 yet again. Diego Lopez starting in net, of course. The back four, however, we are seeing some changes. Of course, we saw De Sciglio and Alex start last game. Rami, of course, and Abate. Abate, we saw him in small parts of last game, of course, against Sassuolo. But pretty much this is what the back four should look like. Maybe you can argue about Mexes being in that back four, but of course, he's still improbable for this match. It's not certain that he will be featuring in it, of course. However, he did start training once again with the squad. What do you think about this back four, Adamo? Strong enough. Of course, last game against Sassuolo, we really lacked on that wing. Pretty much the reason why we lost that match was because we couldn't really provide anything, and those wings were pretty much awful. What do you think about this back four this time around?
I think it's a huge advantage considering the style that Torino play. Obviously, we need our fullbacks to be at their best. Obviously, De Sciglio hasn't been at his top form lately, but hopefully if he does start, he can turn things around. And, I think we need a player like Alex in the back four when you're facing a team like Torino, because he's very, very good at set pieces, as we do see when he does play out, when he's actually fit. Because, with Torino, we know how their strikers are with Mauri and Quagliarella. They're very aerial present strikers, and they very much so rely on set pieces and balls in the air. So we're going to need defenders that can stop things like that. So hopefully Alex can start. And, with the defense in that sense, I think it's a very good defense for us to be using this team at Torino, as I stated earlier. And hopefully it can be solid and hold up the fort.
Of course, as you mentioned, Torino have a lot of aerial threats. Milan's gonna have to be extra careful, especially on those set pieces. We saw them concede on the corner yet again against Sassuolo. Really no man marking whatsoever. The defenders are just losing their man all the time. So Milan's gonna have to be very careful in this match altogether to avoid further mistakes. Now let's look at the midfield and the forwards, of course. De Jong is supposed to be back finally in this match. He's going to be playing that center mid role. Montolivo on the left, Poli on the right. He got himself a goal against Sassuolo. The front three, we got Menez in the middle. Didn't really do much last game, of course, as the entire team really didn't. El Shaarawy expected to start on the left, and Bonaventura on the right. Now, Adamo, of course, not many changes if I may really, regarding the team that's supposed to be lined up against Torino and the one that lined up against Sassuolo. Of course, the only major change there in the midfield is De Jong coming on for SCN. Now, of course, this is really going to favor Milan altogether, because SCN, as I mentioned last time in the match review, completely slow, and it's so easy to get past him, of course. So we're going to need De Jong back in that presence, in that center mid role. We kind of did talk about him a lot, but we know that De Jong is really important to this team. But Adamo, really, what do you expect with this midfield? Of course, I think we saw it a few games ago. It could be against Roma or Napoli, I'm not quite sure. But really, I always said that Montolivo, De Jong, and Poli is probably the midfield that we should consider going with the players that we currently have on our roster. What do you think of that, Adamo?
I completely agree, because with a player like Poli, he is very aggressive, but he is a very tactically sound player. So he's not somebody like Muntari, who's just more so of a lumberjack. Then you got a player like Montolivo, who can distribute the ball. Hopefully he has a better game than he did against Sassuolo. And then also we have De Jong back, and you know how crucial De Jong is, because he pretty much mans the whole fort at the back, helps them out, and makes the midfield more of a unit than just separate players playing for whatever role they want to play. So yeah, I think it's a very, very solid midfield. Like you said, it's arguably one of our best midfields we can field, and hopefully he can control the mid out there.
Perfect. Now let's quickly move on to prediction time. Damo, as I said, it's not going to be a very easy match against Torino. They actually had some very good results against some tough opposition. Of course, they lost against Roma 3-0, but other than that, they lost to Juve with a 1-goal margin. They lost to Napoli, I think, 1-goal margin. They have pretty close games against top teams. What do you think the score will be this time around at the Stadio Olimpico?
I'm going to go with 2-1 to Milan, more so in the sense that I do think that Torino will score, whether it's on a set piece or whether it's just something like a header goal or something by Mauri or whoever would score. But yeah, I think it'll be 2-1 to Milan. I think we can break down their defense pretty well, although they do have some solo players in there. But yeah, hopefully that is the result, or we get something better, but I'm going to go with 2-1.
Same for me, I guess. Milan definitely have to go for the win on Saturday. They can't lie back. They can't play for another tie. We have just so many ties so far this season. It's enough. Milan need to push for the wins, the points that matter. 3 points on the agenda for Milan, in my opinion, on Saturday. It's going to be a very, very tight match against Torino. Of course, the home crowd is expected to back them up. I'm going to go for a 2-1 as well. Milan, as I said, is going to have some difficulties in this match, of course, but in the end, I do believe that they will escape with the 3 points. That is it, guys, for the match preview for Torino-Milan. Don't forget, the match is this Saturday, January 10 at 8:45 p.m. local time. Don't forget, guys, to, of course, subscribe to Rossoneri TV for match previews, reviews, discussions, fan reactions, and much more. Everything you need to stay atop of AC Milan, especially in this transfer market period. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Gio and Adamo signing off, and as usual, Forza Milan!